Hello again, RJ the Story Guy here. You may have noticed a new background behind me here. I thought I'd change it up just for a little variety in case you're actually watching this as I read. And so I'll be doing that from time to time, probably go back to my little tigers at some point. Hopefully even go outside, but right now it's kind of cold right now as I'm taping this. All right, so let's get started on Chapter 7 that picks up just after Chapter 6 immediately ends. As if a tornado had silently sucked her away, Teresa was pulled from Pita and Pia. Emerging from sleep, she was paralyzed for several seconds before she could sit up and stare out into the moonlit night. It had been so real, not like an ordinary dream or vague shadows or irrational events strung together. She lay back down, but sleep did not return quickly, and when it did, she did not dream or travel to Peralta steeples. Morning came with freshly prepared tortillas and roasted green chili. Teresa greeted her father and mother dutifully. After a breakfast, uninterrupted by conversation, her father left for his part-time job at Wortman's, the nearby feed store a German immigrant had recently opened. Her mother busied herself with the dishes and cooking a red chili sauce for the beans that had been soaking overnight. Wanting to escape the heat of the oven on a late summer morning, Teresa hurried to complete her chores of washing the dishes and making the beds. Dashing back through the kitchen, she stopped short, finding the door blocked by two women covered by what seemed to be the veils of widows. "Oh, excuse me, I didn't know Mama had company." The widows stood their ground without a word. Teresa's mother turned from her boiling pot of beans and stared at Teresa, a frown furrowing its way across her forehead. "Teresa, loca, what are you babbling about? There is no one here." Teresa looked at the two women who swayed slightly, but remained more erect than the viejas, old ladies, who usually wore the widow's garb until their dying day. "Mama? Then who are these two viejas?" pointing to the two who still blocked the way. Her mother humored her by looking carefully in the direction of the door. "Teresa, go back to bed. I will fix you some manzanilla tea to settle your nerves." Muttering something along the lines of, "I knew this would happen eventually, 21 years old and not yet married. Oh, mijita." Mama stopped and then turned to her daughter and put her hands firmly on Teresa's shoulders, guiding her to the bedroom. "Mama, what are you doing? Who are these?" And as she looked at the two mute figures, as if fanning away smoke, their veils were blown away, so she could see their faces clearly. "Pita, Pia, mi Dios, you're here in my home in Peralta, in, what do you call it, my plane?" She turned to her mother. "Listen, last night these women..." And then a wisp of warm smoke traced itself across her lips. Pita's face stuck itself between Teresa and her mother. "No, Teresa, your mother cannot see or hear us. It is like last night when you visited us. Only we could see and hear you, and so now only you can know we are here. Shut up before your mother begins to believe you are possessed by a demon. But no, do nothing. Do not look us in the eyes. Do not say anything to us with your mother or anyone else present. Just go to your room, lie down, and be quiet until she leaves you alone." With her mouth still open, Teresa stifled herself and allowed her mother to take her to her room. "There, mijita, you have not been sleeping well. I can tell by those dark circles under your eyes. You have been taking this curandera business much too seriously. The health and lives of the people of Peralta do not depend on your healing powers. Leave it to God and get more rest." "Yes, Mama, you're right. I'm sorry. It was the shadows from the elm tree through the window in the door. I've been thinking of poor Senora Garcia, and I just thought she was..." "That's my girl. Now close your eyes and pray the rosary to clear your mind. Buena." After several moments, to make sure she was truly settling down, she left Teresa alone. Pita and Pia drifted in, silent, until she opened her eyes. "Don't talk yet. Your mother is listening at the door. breathe deeply and regularly so she will think you're asleep. Finally, she's gone back to the kitchen. Just listen, and when you do talk, whisper gently." Teresa nodded. Pita sat on the floor of Teresa's bed while Pia looked out the window, fascinated that Peralta was much like their Peralta steeples, yet different, because the modern age was making its presence known even in 1905 in this remote village in the territory of New Mexico. Pita spoke. "As soon as you were taken back to your world, we knew we had to find you. We meditated throughout the afternoon and then went to sleep side by side in our bed. We soon found ourselves west of here. Then we flew over the river, the treetops, across the fields, and finally down into the plaza. We went into the church and then into each house around the plaza. We were determined to find you, even if we had to visit every house in the village. But it took only 8 visits, and there you were." Teresa whispered, "You should have come to my room first." "But you're such an early riser, already up and done with breakfast and your chores." Suddenly Pita and Pita's bodies faded and became translucent. Teresa sat up and called out, "No, don't leave yet." Pia and Pita's images solidified. "Shh, Teresa, your mother." Her mother's voice called out from the kitchen. "Yes, mijita, are you sick?" No, Mama. I was just wondering if the tea is ready yet." "Not yet. I'll bring it to you in a few minutes." "Thank you, Mama." She turned back to Pita. "Sorry. I just don't want you to go back yet. This is so frustrating. We are sisters of the soul. Why do we have to be separated? Why can't I touch you?" Pita smiled. "Perhaps we can find a way. There is much that is the same in our worlds, except here it seems, I don't know, like you are giants, and we come from a tiny little world at your feet. Even though we can look you in the eye, we feel like we're standing on one of the highest steeples of Peralta, just to be able to meet you eye to eye." "Yes, Pita, I know what you mean, except when I was in your village and home, I felt like a child lying down with my face to the ground. I don't quite know how to explain it. Everything was so vast and far away." "Teresa, Pita and I must return. It is becoming hard to stay here. There's a wind blowing, trying to take us back. We will search for a way to be truly together. Goodbye for now." Pita joined Pia at the window, become translucent again. They turned to drift out when they were stopped, as if it were solid. The wind of their world blew them around the window, and they quickly disappeared, flying westward. Teresa made an effort to go to sleep, but she only found a dark place of confusion and insubstantial forms. Sometimes trees, endless swampland, and cattails seemed more reflection than real. "Mijita, your tea is ready. Sit up, drink it, and then lay back down. You are not to get up until lunchtime to help me when your father comes." There were no more dreams that morning or the next several nights. All right, now we go on to Chapter 8. At last Teresa dreamed and traveled to Peralta steeples to visit her sisters. Each time she would emerge just west of the river, which was called Dream River, and then travel northwest to Peralta steeples. "These ghostly visitations are just not enough," Teresa complained to the ever-silent Pia. "I want to touch you and live in the world which is more accepting of who and what I am." "Don't wish too hard. You may get it. But once having it, it may be more than you can imagine," Pita said as she brewed a tea of manzanilla for a child who suffered from colic. Pita continued, "There must be a way that we can be together in the physical sense, but we must tread carefully. You wouldn't want to live here all the time. You are not meant for this place. Otherwise, you would have been born here." "But I've always felt so out of place there. But here? Still, I do love my parents. Isn't there a man in your life?" There is Juan Chavez. He's a good man, only 10 years older than me. Some of my friends have been married off to viejos who make their grandfathers look like boys. My father has more or less promised me to Juan, and I have not objected. But I've put off my agreement to wed him for many years. My father's frustrated, but he respects my work as a curandera. Still, I wonder if there is more. Perhaps more. But someone here for you? We doubt it. There's a difference between your people and us. Pia and I cannot explain it even to ourselves, but we sense a difference so deep that it couldn't be bridged, and shouldn't be. Yet, to have you come here from time to time would be a blessing. And to have my sisters with me in Peralta would also be a blessing. The work you two could do among my people. Pia smiled, nodded, but ending with a shake of her head. Pita laughed. My sister has indicated we can only do so much. The disbelief we would face in the very nature of your world would sap the bit of healing powers we possess. Outside, the sky began to ignite into frozen flames of orange and gray-blue. Sunset was approaching. Teresa got up and wandered to the window, gazing out. It is time to leave. Morning approaches in Peralta. Good night, sisters. She faded from the kitchen as the winds of her mind whirled her not through but around the window, then through the wall and out into the blue twilight glowing in the east. Pia suddenly jumped to her feet and ran to the window, unable to catch her breath. She looked wildly at Pita and almost uttered a cry. Pita's eyes widened as she peered into her sister's mind. Mi Dios, as our sister would say. Of course, our two worlds are so different except for the basic elements. When we left her home, it was the same. We could pass through anything except the window, just as she could not pass through ours. Glass. Earth. In the form of sand, refined, purified, and melted in fire. But what else? Air? Water? These basic elements seem to exist as real in both worlds when we visit. They may be a barrier to our spirits, but given their reality to the three of us, could just the opposite be true in terms of our bodies? Could these elements be used to build a portal for us to pass our bodies from this world to hers, and for her to pass into ours? Pia looked at her sister with a smile growing in the corners of her mouth. Pita laughed. Yes, sister, that sounds crazy. Maybe just crazy enough to work. Well, that ends that chapter. We'll see you the next time for chapter 9. Bye.